Whether you're about to graduate and enter the workforce for the first time, or you're decades in, you feel like you've hit a speed bump or a ceiling, we've got some strategies to help make sure you're on the road to success.
Johnny C. Taylor is president and CEO of SHRM, the Society for Human Resource Management. Johnny, good morning.
Good morning. Good to be here with you.
So let's start things off. You know, it's graduation season now. There's a lot of folks trying to get into a new career. So what advice do you have for them? Where do they start?
Attitude trumps experience.
Interesting.
Bottom line, I mean, the fact of the matter is if you're valedictorian, you have a high school class, top of your class from college, however you're going into the workforce, you tend to think, you know, I know what I'm doing, and therefore you come with not so much. The fact of the matter is the other person on the other side of the table knows a lot more than you, and if you want to be successful, you better accept that. So increasingly, employers are looking for people with great work ethic and humility, right?
And you also mentioned the research, the company, and the role as well before you show up.
Absolutely. You got to. There's nothing worse than interviewing someone. They're like, what? And they start talking about another company. Right. It's offensive, frankly. That's what it is.
So let's fast forward a few years. You're past that entry-level phase that Dylan just mentioned. You're cruising along. How do you stand out? How do you move up in your career?
Yeah, so a couple of things. You've got to master new skills. The problem with mid-level people, you're talking 15 years into your career, is you're still there, so therefore you've been successful. And you don't think you need to learn new things. So we strongly, strongly encourage adaptability, constantly learning, reskilling yourself so that you are today relevant, not just what you were historically. Find mentors. Mentors are a big part of it. You don't think about that given where you are in your career, but if you want to make it to the next step, you've got to find a strong mentor.
And when asked, raise your hand for that next step.
Taking initiative, my gosh, if you're not taking initiatives and proving that you add value, you simply become middle management. And that's the worst place to be stuck in your career.
So now you've reached maybe the C-suite or you're in senior management level. What's next for you? How do you advance from that?
Yeah, so I've talked a lot about learning new skills. I mean, that's really, really where it is. Hiring an executive coach. Because people management is at the core of what you do as you go up. And you know the idea. And so being a great accountant doesn't make you a great leader of accountants. And ultimately you get your work done by people agreeing to follow you. So it's a big part of the work. You have to be open to new assignments, new jobs, consider a different way of working. You will cap out and get stuck in that middle management role if you don't.
Okay. What about for folks out there who aren't loving the career they're in? They want to make the change. It can be scary to all of a sudden be older in the career force and then have to, you know, switch jobs.
And see, most people don't realize this, but according to the EEOC, you're old at 40. So we're like, maybe not you, right? But you're old at 40 all of a sudden.
I've been old for a while.
That's right, exactly. No, so what you've got to, obviously you've got to reskill, upskill, retrain, all that good stuff. But what you have to understand is that we have a worker shortage. Americans stopped having children in meaningful numbers for the last 2 decades. Our birth rate's on a century year long. So employers need you. It's no longer do it because it's the law or because it's the nice thing to do. We actually need older workers. Here, 2 quick stats. The fastest growing segment, get ready, in the U.S. workforce over the next decade will be people 75 and older.
Yes!
The fastest, it will double as a segment. The other one is...
In what careers, though?
Everything. You're right. Really? It's not just the Walmart greeter. By the way, those great jobs, too. Yeah. But literally everywhere. We're literally seeing 65-year-olds come in and say, I want a development plan. I want to start my career. And so we have to think very differently. It's not just about the young kids. Yeah. It's really interesting, too. Half of the jobs that will be created over the next decade will go to people who are 55 and older.
Wow. Hey, Johnny, asking for a friend I know. What do you do if there's somebody in the job that you want, but they won't leave?
Johnny, you don't want to get caught up in this.
Don't go for it. Right?
No, I don't know who'll be asking that question. Who's Dylan? But you know,
it's great to have you, Johnny.
Great to be here. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Poor Dylan. Poor Dylan.
I love you, Al.
Oh, yes,
I know you do.
Can't wait for you to leave, though. Up next.
Can't miss you if you don't.